my story of how my family experienced prematurity firsthand. In July of 2010, I found out that I was pregnant with twins. We were excited and happy and just ready for it, ready for the adventure and the pregnancy and the fun planning, and right away I was put on bed rest. And it was interesting and scary and kind of frustrating, all kind of rolled into one. You know, you go into a pregnancy excited and wanting to do all the fun things and plan, and then all of a sudden you're told you can't do any of it. No yoga, no fun activities, nothing. But I was determined to do what I had to do to make sure that I had a healthy pregnancy. Had lots of complications along the way, a couple of, contractions here and there, sending me off to labor and delivery, but ultimately sent back home on bed rest to just kind of hang out and watch some more TV. I was determined to do everything by the book. I had a book that told me how much to eat, how much to drink, and I kind of just did what I was told by the doctors in the book. And I remember on December 28th having really, really bad pains and not quite sure what it was or what was going on, and I called the doctor. They said just take it easy, drink some more water, and let us know if it gets better or worse. So about 6 o'clock that night I called my mom and said, Mom, I need to go to the hospital. Something just doesn't feel right and I just want to get checked out. Well, we got there, it was snowing and crazy, and I'm told, I have to be hospitalized and put on magnesium and try and stop the contractions and keep those babies in there. So at this point, I'm 23 weeks and only 6 days into my pregnancy, and really kind of afraid of the idea of having these babies early. Well, the following morning, get checked out and things are looking pretty good, and then they're talking about C-sections and taking these babies and just staying calm. And it's like, how do you stay calm when you're told that your baby's at only 24 weeks, maybe born early? Not a very easy thing to do. I remember looking at my grandma and my mom and saying, these babies can't come early. It's too soon, and they won't make it. And I remember my grandma telling me, he knows what he's doing. God knows what he's doing. And if it's their time, it's their time to come. And, as soon as they handed me those papers to sign with the consent for the C-section, they were no sooner taking me out into the operating room. And I, was told that it was either the possibility of none of us coming through it alive or some of us coming through it. And I remember being in the OR and everything was happening so fast, and they, made their first cut, and I didn't hear any cries. I didn't see any babies. And I was scared. I was terrified. It was your worst nightmare. Never do you go into a pregnancy expecting, to have your baby so soon. I never thought it would happen to me. I never thought that it was a possibility. How can you do everything that you're told and then have this happen? It didn't make sense. A couple hours later, it seems like a couple hours later, was in recovery and asked the nurse, did they make it? And she said, yes, they're beautiful. She said, Shelby was 1 pound, 5 ounces, and she was 12 inches long, and that Colby was 1 pound, 8 ounces, and 11.5 inches, and they were beautiful. And that I wouldn't get to see them until later that evening, and that was kind of frightening. And, why can't I see them? I'm their mom. And, of course, they have to look out for me too, because I did just have surgery and was, under medication, and they had to make sure that I was okay as well. So I remember first seeing them, and to me they were just these tiny little bundles of beautiful baby. You know, I saw past all the tubes and the monitors and the wires and everything, and I just saw these 2 little lives that I had fought so hard to bring into the world, and that they had fought right there with me to be a part of the world. And it was scary. It was kind of terrifying to see such tiny little children sitting there fighting for their lives, not knowing from day to day if they were gonna survive. Sadly, Shelby did not make it. After 8 beautiful days with her, she passed away due to a perforation in her bowel. And it was devastating. From that point on, I lived in fear that I would lose my son. I lived in fear that, what did I do wrong? Could I have done anything different? The truth is, it just happens. There's no necessarily reason why it happens to certain people or why it doesn't happen to others, but it doesn't make it any easier. I remember getting a call that my son's bowel had perforated. It's about a week after, and my heart stopped and I froze. And being, you know, in Sparks with him in the hospital in Reno, I freaked out and didn't think I would make it there in time. They were able to get him into emergency surgery, and by some miracle, my son survived and had a couple of surgeries along the way, spent 109 days in the NICU and thrived. They expected him to stay in the hospital a week longer than his due date for every surgery, which would have put him not coming home until May. He actually came home 3 days before his due date and is now a 21-month-old crazy little kid that is doing amazing. He has not, thank God, had any problems. He is just your typical 21-month-old, getting into everything, wanting to have things his way, you know, smiling at you when he knows that he's doing something wrong. And it's like, you just look at him and you're like, you know, you're just a miracle. How can I even be mad at you? Thanks to the March of Dimes, families like mine get the chance to have little miracles come home, and they're a big part of all the research and equipment put into these NICUs to help these babies and help these families. And I'm very grateful to be able to be a part of the March of Dimes team and be able to give back to our community and let people know that this happens right here in Reno.